I mean, I'm curious to get your take on this, but it seems to me that there is some real potential to understand consciousness by using psychedelics, either in the individual mind of the philosopher or in scientific experiments. And I'm curious to know what you think the potential. What's the connection in your mind between psychedelics and consciousness?
Yeah, my emphasis would be on the first one in the mind of the philosopher, because I really think when you have the view of ourselves that we're conditioned with, of that the self is something really solid that really exists, and is kind of the be all and end all, and it's a vision of us as these kinds of top down creatures that are really in control. I think that way of seeing the world is delusional, really, if we're going to be kind of, firm about it.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of spiritual traditions like Buddhism that talk about us seeing the world in a deluded way, I think are accurate. And it's understandable that we evolve to have certain ways of seeing the world that aren't, I mean, almost everything, about our perception is off. It's for survival, not for seeing truth. And I think by kind of taking down certain delusions like the self, you can actually see reality more clearly. So in the case of, I was arguing before, the perspective of seeing us as part of nature, if you're a biologist, I think a lot of questions suddenly make a lot more sense. But then I do think experimentally as well, you could absolutely, there's such interesting phenomena that happen, this work on the neural correlates of consciousness, kind of correlating brain activity to subjective states. It's absolutely, it could fit into that paradigm. There's that quote, was it from Stan Grof, about psychedelics being to the study of the mind what the telescope was to the study of the stars.
And the microscope too, yeah.
Right, yeah, and I don't quite think that about the experimental work, because I think people are doing just fine with the kind of correlations of normal subjective states, and that's hard enough. I mean, I think he's right when it comes to, Grof is in a kind of, Freudian, Jungian depth psychoanalytic tradition. There, I think it is truly revolutionary. I think it's the tool to study that stuff. But when it comes to neuroscience, that's actually not the piece that I find most exciting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of the scanning work done, though, of people on psychedelics has been very provocative. I talk in How to Change Your Mind of the work that Robin Carhart Harris did, and identifying the default mode network as one network that was downregulated by the experience, and how suggestive that is, since when they found dramatic drops in default mode network activity is when people reported ego dissolution. And so that correlation, I think, is really interesting. But there's a lot more to be done understanding how the brain appears to be temporarily rewired during psychedelic experience. And then why should it have an enduring effect? Why should a single experience lead to a learning that continues? And whether it's a new narrative about yourself, breaking of an addictive habit, losing your fear of death. I mean, these are big changes that it's hard to imagine a single experience leading to that. Of course, we have the negative example. We have trauma, right? Trauma can change brains. And Roland Griffith has suggested, well, maybe we have to think of this as kind of the obverse of trauma. I mean, that this is a powerful, positive experience that would leave deep tracks in the brain.